Hi everybody. So in our first thinking about the book Getting to Yes, in the first discussion that I opened for you, I asked you to take a position on which kind of negotiations or bargaining do you think is better, and I gave you the choice between hard bargaining and soft bargaining. And it was really interesting to see what all of you had to say. The one thing that kind of stood up is that from the onset, a majority of you favored hard bargaining over soft bargaining for different reasons, but mainly because you were thinking that if you use soft bargaining, you might end up making too many concessions, or concessions that you wouldn't otherwise have to make. There were a few of you who, very few, maybe one or two, who stated that they would favor soft bargaining in general. And then there was another large number of you who said that it kind of depends. It depends on the context. It depends on the participant. Who am I negotiating with? Am I negotiating with a friend? Am I negotiating with an enemy? And some of you talked about the issue. So if we are thinking about trade negotiations between countries versus security-based, say, territorial disputes, that the approach would be different. And then another point that came up is that when we are using hard bargaining, we very clearly have the goal of winning this competition, being the victorious side in this negotiation, in this exchange. Well, when you are using soft bargaining, you're thinking about other things, such as long-term relations and how to walk away when everyone are happy. And of course, the book, Getting to Yes, has its own answer, which some of you also alluded to, and that if we think that there are three different ways to negotiate, hard or positional bargaining, then yeah, clearly your object is to win, and you don't really mind what you're going to do with that. You may use all your leverage, all your levers. In this case, you might use threats, and you perceive the process as a zero sum. So much so to the point that you will be willing to use deception, small or large, and some what would be considered quote-unquote dirty tricks, right? On the other end, there is this idea of soft bargaining. And here the object is not winning, but an agreement. We want to make sure that the negotiation ends up with an agreement. And we are thinking about long-term relations and about friendships, and about this idea that we try on every negotiation transaction is about building trust and understanding the other side. And here you can think about situation, I think Anthony brought up this idea that if the United States and Japan are engaged in economic-based negotiations, you can very easily see that you would like to end these negotiations still with friendship and trust and an understanding between the sides, rather than just win it, even if it means that we no longer can negotiate in good faith with Japan in the future. So that's a very good point. And then how the book, How Getting to Yes, is solving that is by saying that actually you shouldn't be using hard or soft negotiations, but what they call interest-based or principle negotiation. And here, the object of the exercise is not an agreement or a win. The object is to solve a problem. We are defining the problem, asking ourselves what are our interests and what are the interests of the other side. And this is different than asking what are their position. So not focusing on, say it's a car, trying to buy a used car, and the seller says $1,000 and I say $800. Those are our positions. We should ask questions, or we should focus on the interests instead of the positions, right? And then we should look for common ground and decide on the issues based on their merits and not on who came up first with the idea, or this idea that I just want to walk away feeling that I won the situation. And so by focusing on the issue as a problem rather than a competition, rather than a race, arguably we are more likely to get better results. And this is the whole idea behind getting to yes and principal negotiations or interest-based negotiations. So in the coming week, hopefully as you progress in the book, I will also have more of this, and we will continue to work in discussion forums with questions that are focused on the method of principled negotiations.